Hi everyone, welcome to module 3. This module is going to be about understanding n8n's interface and basically how the entire n8n looks like, what are the functions of different buttons, how to get started with creating your own workflow. So I'll take you through an entire journey of understanding how this n8n, which we are talking about with such curiosity, how does this actually look and works like. Let's go to Google, let's search n8n. We start off with this link, n8n.io. And the moment that we come here, we click on get started. Right here in the top right corner, we'll be taken to a screen like this. I would actually love to register this entire thing with you guys. Let's do this, Priyank Singh. So yeah, I've filled in my information and I've clicked on the start free 14-day trial button. So now I have to answer some questions from their side. And yeah, I went ahead and answered all those questions. So I'll simply click on start automating. And I believe I would be taken to the launching screen of n8n. If you guys want, you can watch this quick tutorial to get started. But of course, you don't need it because that is why this community is for. Right. So as you can see, this cloud thing is already created for me. The very first thing that I would actually do is to take this white screen to the dark mode, because that is how I and almost a lot of people prefer. You can see I simply went on the settings. I came here directly in the personal tab, scroll down on the theme. I clicked on dark theme and that's it. Now let's chat. When you create your account, this is how your screen would look like. Saying welcome Priyank, create your first workflow, start from scratch, test a simple AI agent. This would of course be a prompt of 14 days left in your free trial. So that's a great thing. You can test it out. Then of course here you would get all your workflows which somebody else has given in this overview tab. Somebody else has provided you access to any of their workflows. You would get it here. And personal are the workflows which you would create on your own. Then next thing is projects. Add project is something where a team can collaborate and build something together. Then there's admin panel. So I just click on admin panel and show you how it looks like. This is basically the back end of your entire dashboard, which helps you understand how many executions you have done, what plan you're at. Then here, if you go to manage, from here you can upgrade your plan. Whenever there is an update available, you can simply come here and click on this n8n version and simply click on the next update. Right. So this is where you update it. Okay. You go to admin panel, go to manage, and that's how you update your n8n to the latest version available. Keep this on verified community nodes. I tell you what this is. You correct your time zone. Rest, you can keep everything as same as this. You can click on save changes whenever you have updated to a newer version to get it live and online. This is your workspace setting. You can see it's currently online. This billing, this is export, right? All these informational things which are of your own account are present here, right? So you simply come back to dashboard, click on open instance, and you would be taken back. So yeah, now this was admin panel. Then there's templates, a lovely place to find out different automations which are pre-built. Definitely go and visit this. Variables, insights, there are lots and lots of different options. You can totally take your time on exploring that. The only thing which I would do actually here is start off with creating the very first workflow, which is this button itself, create workflow. I'll click on this. And yeah, I would be taken to a screen like this. This is where you can put in your name of the workflow. You can simply click in, it's my workflow right now. Let's put it as first workflow. Let's keep it that way. And you can see it's simply saved and updated. Then we have different options here. This is where the editor is. This is where whatever you will execute, everything would come up here in executions tab. And this is evaluations. You can actually explore what this exactly entire thing is. We don't need it right now, right away. Let's first explore the editor screen. So editor screen, as you can see, this is the very first plus button, plus sign. You would be able to add your very first node, and the same plus sign you can add it from here as well, right? Open nodes panel, right? This is where if you want to add any sticky note or any information to your workflow, this is what you can do that using this button. So this is your focus panel button. Not that relevant, not that important, believe me. You can test it out later on. Ask assistant, if you want to ask any sort of question or any error which is coming forth in any automation that you have created, you can ask it from here. So let's start off. Let's click this plus button, and on the right side you will see that these are all the nodes which are available to you, and this is more like an overview or the category of those nodes. Here we type in sheets, so you'll find Google Sheets here. Let's do Airtable. right? So we find Airtable here. So there are different nodes, right? So you will see how many nodes of Google do we have, right? So Google Ads is there, Google Chat, Google Docs. All of these are nodes which you can actually put in your workflow, and these are the tools which you can use from this community tab here, right? From the nodes tab. And yeah, you can simply start creating your automations. So let's start off with a chat node, a chat trigger first, right? So this is how the chat trigger screen looks like. And this is how the chat trigger node in itself looks like. And this is where our chat is. So whenever we want to send in anything in the chat, you can simply click on open chat here and start typing in here. So the moment that we type any message and send, it would be triggered right here. Yeah, this is the save button. Whenever you create your workflow, always keep this saved. What this inactive and active means is that in inactive status, or in an inactive state, this workflow is of course inactive and it cannot be deployed. It's not live. It would not run automatically, right? So you'll have to manually run it every time you want to run. But yeah, the moment that you click active, it's deployed, it's live. If you have scheduled something in this workflow, if it's a live MCP or anything which is connected to the World Wide Web, this workflow would be active, deployed, and it would be fetching data from this particular workflow in itself. So now, diving back to the PPT that we have created, of course, I've already shown you the entire thing. You would know the canvas, of course, you saw how the canvas looked like, right? Then n8n editor overview, the canvas, which I already showed you. This is where you build your workflow visually by connecting nodes together. This is your main workspace. Nodes, which the right panel which opened up, these are individual building blocks, each perform a specific action like fetching data and sending emails. Then of course the sidebar that allows you to search for and add new nodes, right? Nodes are of course those element, and the sidebar which came up. Let's dive into the key interface elements. The very first thing would be trigger node. This starts your workflow when an event happens, new email, form submission, schedule time, whatever we want. And as you have already seen in our example, we have already put in the first trigger node, which is our open chat node this time. Then the next thing is action node. Okay, so this action node is basically you perform any task like sending emails, updating spreadsheets, or posting to social media. And connections, of course, is the arrows that show the flow of data between nodes, right? Defining the sequence of operations. Action node can be any node, right? Like Google Sheets, the AI agent nodes, Airtable, all those nodes where some action is happening, some function is happening. Those are action nodes. Connections are the arrows. So yeah, let's connect with an action node. And while we are doing this, I'd of course show you how you can connect your Google Sheets with n8n as well. So this is the Google Sheets account that I want to do. Let's do create my credentials. You can simply click on that. OAuth, you don't need to know exactly what that is. Basically, it's more like an authorization channel. This OAuth 2 is what n8n uses to connect with Google. So you simply click on sign in with Google, and this kind of screen would open up. Click on that, and the moment that you click continue, we connect this. The connection would go through, and yeah, the moment the connection is complete, you'll see a connection successful node. You can simply click this and you can see account connected. For remembering, I would type in here Priyank ABC Google Sheets. Perfect. Let's do it. Let's click on save, cross this, and our Google Sheets account is connected. Let's put in a title of n8n demo sheet. That's the title that we want to create, and we can simply now put it here. So now how this works is simply this button that you can see, which is execute step. Let's go to Google Sheet. Let me first show you that whether or not I have a spreadsheet named as n8n demo sheet or not. I am here in the Google Sheets node. So as you can see, there is no such sheet with that name. And the moment that I click execute step here, step executed, node successfully executed, and we come back to Google Sheets right now. And you can see today at 5:10 p.m. exactly, this n8n demo sheet was created. So this is how executing a particular node works, and that is how the output would look like. Drag this, take this to anywhere you want to, but yeah, you can simply put it here and this node would be connected. Now, whenever I put in any chat, this workflow would start triggering. It would come here, it would create another sheet which is called as an n8n demo sheet. That's how interesting this is. So of course, this is not a complete workflow. I just wanted to show you that how this nodes and all function. So yeah, I've simply connected this. You can delete it, delete any sort of connection via this delete button. And yeah, these were the key interface elements of n8n. Now, building and saving workflows. Simply, it's a drag and drop, as I already showed you, onto the canvas to create your own workflows and building blocks. Connect nodes with lines to define the sequence and data flow between steps. Save your workflow and choose to run it manually or set it trigger automatically. It's quite interesting. Let me also show you how a schedule trigger would look like, just for the sake of it. This is how the schedule trigger looks like. Days, you can select days, minutes, second, hours, weeks, months, whatever you want. Then, of course, you can select the time, you can select the hour exactly, the number of days you want to trigger. Let's say I want to trigger it every 7 days at midnight 12:01. So I'd simply do that. And I'll click on execute step. Of course, it's a scheduled trigger, right? So now that this trigger is connected to this sheet, click on save, and I've activated this workflow. So every 12 in the midnight, a sheet would be created whose name would be n8n demo sheet. And let's now take an example of a mini workflow. Let's start off by actually executing and building something. So let's delete all of that. And yeah, let's take on with the mini workflow example. How this workflow works is basically this is more like a webhook or a trigger node. You can simply keep the trigger node for now. Let's not dive into webhooks. We'll of course dive into webhooks later on. So let's start off with building something small but very exciting. It's a mini workflow example, right? Let's start off with a webhook node, or for now, let's start off with the n8n form, of course, right? Because then webhook setup and everything would be really complicated. We are starting off with the basics first. So let's start off building with a simple form submission. Then of course, we'll take that form's data and put it into a database storage, or which is Google Sheet in this case. And then of course, we'll send an email or a confirmation email to that particular person who has submitted the form. So what are we taking in the form? We are just taking their name and their email. And of course, we'll receive a confirmation email through this workflow. I would request you that you also open up your n8n, start building this with me. That's the best way to build this. Let's start off with the form node. So I'll open the side panel and I'd simply type in form. Here the n8n form is there, and this trigger is what we want to keep. So we'll simply click on that, and first I'll just go back to the canvas and I'll show you how this node looks like. This is the n8n form submission node. Okay, so let's open that. There are two URLs that you can see. This one is production URL, the second one is test URL. Difference between these is basically test URL is meant for testing purposes when your workflow is inactive, and production URL is when your workflow is active, right? So it can fetch any n number of events without every time coming back to the workflow and clicking execute workflow to test and fetch some events. I'll show you exactly how. Let's keep form title as n8n demo test form. Form description, let's do create our first workflow. Now click on add form elements. So what I want is first is the name, and I'd simply put in a placeholder and I'd click required. Then I'd add another form element because we are sending them an email. So of course we need their email. So we do what is your email, then let's do required field. Respond when form is submitted. Let's test this out. Let's simply click on execute step. And here our form will open up. This is a test version of your form. This is how the form would look like. I would of course explain later on how you can connect this form to your websites and everything. But yeah, for now, let's just test it out. We'll go step by step. What is your name? My name is Galaxy Destroyer. So what is your email? My email is priyank.singh2208. I'll give my personal email. I would request please don't mail me stuff, right? This is what I'll submit for now. Form submitted, your response has been recorded. And this is where our output would come across. What is your name? This is the output that we got, Galaxy Destroyer. Then of course the email, then submitted at, and there is a button called as you can pin this output instead of waiting for a test event, right? Which is very useful when you're testing out your workflows. Always pin whatever output comes so that you don't have to again and again execute the nodes and again bring in those test values. Now this is how the output screen looks like. This is where the input starts. This is the node where everything which we want to set up, the setup happens, and this is the output node, right? So in output you can see that there are three different kinds of views which are possible. One is the schema view, This is one of the most used and best views out there. This is probably where we are going to spend a lot of time. Then there is a table view. Table view, of course, gives you all the output or all the information which would be fetched or all the output which we get in a single glance. So that's table view for you. Pretty useful when you want to gauge how many items or what is the total information in those items. And then, of course, is the JSON view. JSON is, of course, the JavaScript notation view. Which you do not need to typically dive into or know a lot. It's totally fine the way that it is. The most time we are going to spend is going to be on schema and table. And now let's start using this. Here you'll see that one item is already here. And if you go to executions, you'd find that this was successfully executed. And here you'd find the node, which is executed back at that time. Whenever you would click it, this is the exact output which we got. You can test it out different times, of course. This was another test which I was doing. This was another test that we were doing in the last time when we executed the create a spreadsheet thing. If you remember, this is still there, right? That the spreadsheet was executed and it was all created. The next thing is we want to store that data in Google Sheets. So now start thinking, okay, we know that n8n has everything in it. Okay, where do we want to store the data? Google Sheets. So let's start by searching for that node. So I'd search Sheets, I'll dive into Google Sheets, and let's explore what actions do we have that we can perform on a Google Sheet. And always remember that we need to put that data in Google Sheet. So that's more like updating a sheet or appending a sheet. So here you'll see there are different actions, which is append or update. What's the difference between append and update? If you ask, append is more like you're creating an entire row, and update is when you're updating one cell in a row. So append a row is what we are choosing here. This is how the sheet would look like. And let's of course take this particular sheet, the one that we created. This is where we'll start making stuff. So the very first thing that you need to add in a Google Sheet in order to get some info there on n8n is of course one column. So here we'd add name column and email column because these are the two fields which we are taking from the form. So now we'd go back from the documents from the list. We'll select our n8n demo sheet, and from sheets we'd select sheet 1. So yeah, now that we have selected n8n demo sheet and the sheet 1, this is what you can see, mapping columns, right? So you can either map automatically. Let's not choose that. Let's map each column manually. So here you can see this is the input screen, this is the output screen, this is the current sheet node, right? And here you will see that whenever we hover over this particular schema view, right, it's not in the table view particularly, of course, we can use that, but the best way is to go through a schema view. You will see a holding kind of option. You can simply click on that and hold that, and you would be able to move around that particular value. Now, whatever input is coming in from the what is your name option in the form, I want to put the output into the name. So the moment that I dragged it and dropped it here, you can see that it automatically converted into a JSON file, which is the language in which n8n is coded. You don't need to know exactly how this happened, what happened. You don't need to know. All you need to know is you can simply drag and drop it, and it would automatically come in this green kind of color. And you can see the actual output of how it's going to look like. It gives a small preview. It's Galaxy Destroyer, which we also know that was the input. This small option which I want to just share because it's going to be very crucial in the coming times. Whenever you are selecting some column, there is always this option of fixed and expression. What does fixed do? Fixed means there is a fixed value that you want to update, right? So if I just type this particular thing in fixed and I take it here and I put this also in fixed and I click on execute step, you can see that there's nothing here in the second column yet. Okay, but the moment that I click on execute step, the exact fixed value or the constant or the static value which was present here or put in here, that is updated here as well, right? But we don't want that. What we want is a dynamic value to be updated. So the moment that we want a dynamic value, we'll click on expression. Whenever there's an expression here, it would start fetching a dynamic value from the previous nodes. We also take this to expressions, and now when I'll click execute step, what you will see is here in the sheet, Galaxy Destroyer, the name and the email particularly was updated in a dynamic form. So this is the difference. Of course, whenever you want to prompt something very big, you can simply click on this small pop-up kind of button. It would open up as a pop-up. You can simply see that this is the expression and this is the result. Now we have executed this. Let's spin this. The shortcut of that is to simply click on that node and click on P in your keyboard. and the data would be pinned. The same thing which we were doing from here. And yeah, let's click on save because saving the workflow is very crucial. Next, what do we need to do? We need to send an email notification to that person as a confirmation that your form has been received. So now what do we need? We need Gmail. So let's do Gmail. We'll find this. What we need to do is we need to send a message or send a mail. So yeah, let's click on that send a mail button. Credentials, click on plus. We'll simply do that same thing, which is sign in with Google. Perfect. Our node is connected. Connection is successful. Next, resource is of course message. Operation is send. If we put in a manual or a fixed value or a static value here, it would again and again send to that particular person. But what we need is we need a dynamic value here, because every time a form is being submitted, we want to send to that particular person a confirmation email. So what we'll simply do is we'll simply take this email, we'll drag and drop it here. It would turn into expression. This is how the preview of the result would look like. Subject, confirmation of form submission, and email type. You can keep in HTML, you can keep it text, right? Totally up to you. If you want to put in some designs and all, HTML is definitely a good option. And in message, what I want to put in is your form is submitted. Before executing this, I would actually go back to my Gmail in order to show you if I have a mail from my particular account, which is priyank.singh@bizbitmarketing. There's no such mail till date, till now. So let's once again execute this step. And the moment that we do it, execute it successfully. The Gmail was sent. Let's go to Gmail. Then simply click on send. And you would see a confirmation of form submission. This mail was particularly sent to priyank.singh2208. Now let's go back to my account. You would see that I've received a confirmation of form submission email, attribution, which simply is provided by n8n. We can kind of turn it off as well. You can simply come here, come to options and append n8n attribution. You can simply turn this off. And now if I'll execute this step again, what you will see is this step is executed. And again, I would have received a mail, which is confirmation of form submission. Your form is submitted, but this time the n8n attribution is not present here, right? So that's how you do that. Now let's test the entire workflow. Individually, all these nodes work, but will the workflow work the moment that I've put in data in the particular form, in the form submission? So the first thing, we'll unpin all these data, right? Let's save that. Let's refresh this page. So yeah, now actually let's test this entire workflow out rather than testing individual nodes. The very first thing that we need to do is we need to deploy the workflow. So we'll click this, we'll keep this as active. On form submission, let's test this out. Let's execute this step. It's listening now. Name is, let's do ABC itself. And email, I'll keep, of course, the same so that you guys can check. And now, so I've submitted the form. It comes back directly here. It takes that particular information into the sheet. You can see ABC and Priyank Singh here. And then, of course, there's a message node which was automatically executed. And wait, I'll just refresh this. And yeah, I've received once again confirmation of form submission. And this was received at 5:41. So we'll simply go back. If you want to see this execution once again, you would go back to executions. You would see that, yeah, it was executed at 5:41 once again. And yeah, let it load. That's here. So yeah, this was a simple automation that we just built successfully. Let's go back. You can see that, okay, this was the first webhook where we received the form, where we stored the data in Google Sheets, and where we sent an email for the confirmation. This is a very basic, very simple workflow. You can of course make it a lot complex, totally up to you. You can automate sending emails. There's a huge lot of possibilities right now. There's a very simple workflow for collecting data from web forms, storing it into your records, and acknowledging the receipt to your users. So this was the complete module 3. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed building the workflow with me together. And there were a lot of small intricacies of every node which were present, which we had to take care of. And I know that you would be really excited the moment that this particular thing would have been executed for your own n8n workflow and for your own n8n cloud as well. And you would have received a confirmation email. This is where you start thinking of the possibilities which are coming forth. Glad that you have completed the third module. I'd see you in the next video.